Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy as always, Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we've got a January 20th show for you guys today to end this work week with 9 games. In this one, we're taking a look at the Mavs playing host to the Miami Heat, pretty much the surging Miami Heat right now. Also got another game video up and our player props, so make sure to like and subscribe to that page so you can continue to follow along with us. Also head to thelines.com. That's where we've got everything up there about the NBA in written form for you guys, and obviously all those other sports you're betting on as well. Also have our odds finder tool up there. You can use that to make sure you're getting the best juice back on all these bets you're making across U.S. sportsbooks this NBA season. Nate, let's go ahead and jump into this slate and then talk Mavs and Heat.
Yeah, we've got Pelicans -1 at Orlando after they were just stomped by the Heat at home. Miami is +1 now at Dallas. They opened as slight favorites, but that's fluctuating a little. Golden State +7.5 at Cleveland after losing an OT in Boston last night. Still got the under if you waited for it to get to 240 there. The Knicks are +3 at the Hawks. Some injury news to watch for Atlanta there. Trae Young questionable. Clips actually might have Kawhi and PG, and they're -7 at the Spurs, trying to snap their skid. The Pacers still without Halliburton are +11 at the Red Hot Nuggets. The Nets, 0-4 now without Durant, are +7.5 on a back-to-back in Utah. Memphis is -7 at the Lakers with a 243 total. We will break that game down for you in a separate video. And then the Thunder +3 at Kings. Domantas Sabonis is questionable after missing a game there with an illness. So Miami, yeah, you said starting to get red hot. I mean, I don't want to get too carried away with them winning 4 of their last 5, considering 2 at home against the Giannis-less Bucks. But I think we can get ahead of this right now in terms of how they match up against Dallas and how vulnerable, Dallas is going to be now without Christian Wood for at least a week. Maxi Kleber is still out. GHJ, Hardaway Jr. is expected to play. But, I mean, Wood has been their second best player. I don't think anyone can really argue that, and had really been coming on strong lately, especially, playing starter minutes, whether he's starting or not. And then they've played 4 games without him this year. They're 1-3. They score 5 fewer points per game. Their defensive rating up about the same, but their rebounding struggles. I mean, they average 3 fewer rebounds per game, and their 2-point shooting drops off a cliff from like 48% to 41%. Dallas already, I don't understand how this is a good offensive team. When I looked at their stats, I'm like, what? 30th in paint points, 30th in fast break points, 29th in assists, 28th in fourth quarter points as well. And the answer is just, Luka often getting to the free throw line. They are number 1 in free throw attempt to field goal attempt ratio. Of course, also 3rd in 3-pointers made, but at an average percentage. So, but the thing is, when you match up with Miami, they're number 1 in limiting free throws in this hot streak. They're number 1 on the road limiting free throws. They're number 1 in overall defensive efficiency on the road, 3rd in assist to turnover ratio, 11th in 3-point percentage, and they've struggled in that regard lately, but they've still won. Like they gave up 22 threes to the Bucks, but just dominated them on the boards, 18 offensive rebounds. They gave up 13 threes at a good clip to the Pels, but again, dominated them with finally their full team. I don't know if this is the first time all year that they had their actual starting lineup, right? Lowry, Hero, Butler, Bam, and then Caleb Martin. And that allows them to bring Strus, Gabe, and Depot off the bench, who had 50 combined points in that masterclass against the Pels, a 37-9 assist to turnover ratio. I mean, Miami is a team we expect to turn the corner at some point. It took maybe a little longer than expected, but they're starting to do it. And Dallas is obviously floundering a little bit here without their second most important player. And they have Luka going up against a team that has guarded him very well, that seems to know how to either limit the opposing star or limit what they do to set up other guys. And you look at the most recent meeting, Luka had 21, 10, and 6, shot 5 for 19. Brunson and Maxi Kleber were the most important pieces in that win for Dallas. They were +12 and +13. And in the most recent home game, Luka was a -13, even though he had 33 points. Only 5 assists, 4+ turnovers, I think in 4 straight against the Heat. So they can do some things to confuse him, and their overall depth with all four of those guys starting seems to be superior.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like this Mavs team. It's just a quick correlation. Jalen Brunson was huge for this squad because of the fact that they don't get assists. They don't score when Luka's not on the floor. They don't do much of anything without Luka Doncic doing it for them or initiating it. And you can put the blame on whomever you want there. Maybe he gets too much usage and he needs a sidekick. Not even interested in that conversation. It's just this team is what it is. And even Christian Wood as your quote unquote sidekick, or a combination of Christian Wood and Spencer Dinwiddie and Tim Hardaway Jr. as your running mates. It's not enough. On offense, there's not enough, not just playmaking, but playmaking for others, right? Like specifically setting up other people. The only person that you see do that obviously is Luka. The way that the Heat have been playing defense, that's really what it comes down to. And I think also the way that Luka has played against the Heat. I mean, he's had some decent numbers with some big rebounding games. He's never gotten 35 points against him in his last, specifically in his last four, dating back to like 3 seasons ago. He hasn't gotten 35 points against them. And just a quick stat for the difference between what happens when the Mavs win and lose this season, specifically what Luka does. They've won 24 games this season, and when Luka in those 24 games, Luka is averaging 37.5 points, 37.5 points, 10 boards, and 10 rebounds. He's actually limiting turnovers as well to like less than 4, which is good for him right now considering his high, ginormous usage, right? And shooting about 40% from 3 as well, I would add, which is obviously the correlation you can make for the whole Mavs team, which is if they're not making threes, there's a huge disparity in terms of when they win, they shoot at about a 39% clip. When they lose, it's about a 32% clip. So a pretty big difference. Obviously, that's going to be consistent, but across teams, when you win, you make more threes. Not that big of a, but for them, it's like very consistent, and it's a pretty stark contrast. In the losses, Luka's averaging 28.5 points a game, right? 7 boards, 7 assists, and about 4.5 turnovers. So like basically, as Luka goes, so goes this team. And with the way that the Miami Heat have shown that they can limit assists, which fine, I mean whatever, limit rebounds, obviously very very big for them because the Mavs are not getting second chances, which is just, it creates this ugly, awful 90. These teams have played at basically like a 93 pace the last 4 times that they've played each other, and that in the last 2 it was actually 92 or so. They a little bit even slower than their normal when they play each other. And when the Mavs are missing shots, they're basically bottom 5 in second chance points and getting offensive rebounds. So there's no shot for them to really clean anything up because the Heat are basically doing that for them the entire time, right? As we know. So we'll talk about Luka in player props. He just continues to have these giant totals, and to be fair to him and the Mavs, like he needs to get those 35 points. I just told you he needs to score 37, 38 points for them to win, which is what we've been talking about all season. It's going to take more than a Herculean effort. And against the way that this defense is sort of rounding into form, and specifically Victor Oladipo, you talked about the Miami Heat bench. It's kind of crazy how Tyler Hero's out and you're like, they got Max Strus or Caleb Martin, and then it's like, oh, well, Jimmy Butler's maybe out or they're not as good when he's off the floor. Yeah, they got Victor Oladipo now, who's one of the best wing defenders in the league so far, leading the league in steals since he came back from injury. So yeah, I just like everything they're doing, and the way that Depot adds that incredible extra length and size on the perimeter.
Yeah, and then you put it all together, and it's like, well, they got all those guys, and who's Dallas got? They got their second best player injured, and I didn't even get to the rebounding discrepancy though, but you touched on it. I mean, Miami is number 1 in rebounding rate, even better lately. Dallas is 26th in their last 3 here and 27th in rebound percentage at home. Also, they're giving up a lot of 2s. They're going to be doing even more of that without Wood. And Miami is number 1 in terms of the percentage of their points off 2-point field goals in this recent stretch here. While, exactly the way Dallas has to score is at the free throw line, and Miami just does not give that up. So the total's a little low for me at 218. I don't think I'm going to touch it, though, because like you said, how these teams played in their last few meetings, it definitely could go under. It could go over the way you look at how Dallas has played in their last 12, going over 9. But those were against completely different types of teams, like the Rockets 3 times and the Lakers twice. So I'm just banking on Miami winning here, and now you're at even money on the money line with them +1. I think you just hit that with confidence.
Yep, that's my best bet too. I like you said, I don't want to touch the total. There have been a few like weird matchups between these two teams where like the Heat score 125 or it's like 113, 110 or something like that. So 218 is just really really low. But like you said, I could still see it going under and really don't want any part of that. I also feel much better about the Heat and picking on the Mavs right now. So that's all the time we have for you guys in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along. We've also got player props and another game video up for you tonight. So until we see you next, happy betting.